What's up, fam? It's your main man, Coach Crump, and it's another dope episode of the Boy Man King podcast. And I'm with my main man, co-host Chizzy. Say what's up to the people, Chizzy.
Man, I'm here. I'm happy. I'm excited, man. It's Sunday. It's a beautiful day outside. Well, for me, it's evening, but for you, it's a beautiful day outside. I'm happy, man. I'm glad to be here. Good to see you guys.
Man, we got another great host, none other than father, author, speaker, entrepreneur extraordinaire, man of God. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the man, the myth, the legend, the king himself, Maurice Jones.
How's it going? I love that intro. I never had an intro like that, man. It feels good.
What's up, fam? How you doing, man? Welcome to the platform, my good brother.
Thank y'all for having me, man. I love it. I got the same color scheme too. I don't know something about that Kingdom Glory with that black and gold.
Come on, man. Talk spicy. Talk spicy to me, young boy.
Yeah, man. I feel at home right here.
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir.
But look, man, we want to get right to it, man. Listen, first and foremost, thank you for just taking the opportunity to just chop it up with us. Tell us, man, in your own way, in your own words, what does Boy Man King mean to you?
I think it's just the natural evolution of us as men. So, of course, boy, you have to go through the boy phase, then man phase. And you said boy, man, king, right? So when I think about that, I think about like the highest level that we can achieve in the natural is manhood. But then it's kingdomship. You know, when you come to king, you can only really be a true king if you're in the kingdom, right? You can't, because this we don't have nothing here. So the only thing we could be attached to is the kingdom of heaven. So when you ain't a king. Everyone call themselves kings. If they don't got God, they're not a king to me. So that's my understanding of like boy, man, king.
I love it, man. And what's crazy is, you know, I've been saying what's good, King, for about 15 years, give or take. Chizzy could tell you that's kind of been my energy, but it's always I saw it as speaking life into the men that I was talking to. So I was always trying to speak something into them that they didn't believe in themselves. And kind of even in my approach in education with the young men, they always gave me the black men or the young boys or the black and brown boys that nobody wanted, that nobody seemed to get engaged or get productive. And me and Chizzy had done a lot of work in the community development space. And I didn't want to see them say, hey, whatever your situational title was, whatever your current circumstance title was, I would always be like, whether they was 14 or 40, what's good, King? Just to kind of speak what's your potential, what you're capable of. Man, talk about, before we get into your story and everything about what you believe in, but just really quick, man, I know, you know, you're an author, you're a father, but talk about how important it is to speak into a young man, right? He may not be there in that moment, but why it's so intentional for us as men to speak that over them when they're looking at us or even looking up to us.
So it's funny you ask that, because I'm doing a lot of growth as a father. I have a son, I have 2 girls and a boy. And
Come on, shout out 2 girls and a boy. You know what I'm saying?
But you saying that too, and I mean no disrespect. I love being called king, but that's just just answering your question. But to answer this question is the trajectory of where you want to aim on, right? So speaking life into my son's 6, and instead of like always speaking like, hey, you're not listening now or you're not doing this, it's like, okay, I see you're improving. I'm like, I shifted. I noticed when I shift things, he moves differently, So when we're speaking, we're changing that target, because what they internalize, especially a 6-year-old son like myself, or these young boys in the streets and everything that we're mentoring, that we're coaching, when we talk to them, then they're looking at that. So they're focusing on whatever we're saying to them, whether it's negative or good. So it's more important to speak life and, put that trajectory towards this is what you're at, King. This is where you're aiming for. This is who you're going to be. And that way they start hearing that, and then they might, take time to get there, but eventually they're going to hit the target if they keep being fed that.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, I mean, you speak highly of development and personal development and developing the youth and pouring into people. And of course, largely what we do here is endeavor to help men grow in spaces in the different phases of their lives. But I want to go backwards a little bit and just give perspective, because of course, we don't want to give the impression, even for ourselves and Coach Crump, that we just arrived at this place. We woke up and we nurtured and we actually matured and we got to a space. We want to take people on a journey. As we talk about the journey continues, we want to go back a little bit, talk a little bit about Maurice growing up as a shorty, Southern boy, Florida, and Florida now. Were you born and bred in Florida? We got Floridian in the house.
I'm from Virginia. I'm from
You're
DC.
from Virginia, but you
I'm a
live in
DC
Florida. Is that
boy.
correct?
Yeah, yeah. I live in Florida. I've been in Florida for about 7 years now, going on eight
Okay.
years.
So let's talk a little bit about growing up in Virginia, what your family life was like, what experiences helped to shape the Maurice that we see today. Be candid, bro. We're gonna try to do as deep as we can because we want people to really understand what it
Yeah,
looks like to go from transition from a boy to a man to a king. So speak a little bit about growing up in Virginia, what life was like, and what was some of your struggles and some of your pitfalls, if you had any.
yeah, man. I can honestly truly say I'm blessed, man, because
Mm.
uh, I have to this day. I was just thinking about this. It's funny you asked this question because I'm so grateful for my father. I'm so grateful for my parents. But like my parents about to celebrate, I want to say 48 years, I think, of marriage. They're about to go into this year.
Yes.
But you asked me that question made me think of like my life journey was trying to learn and understand people, right?
Mhm.
And like being in the mindset coach and ministry space now, and I went that route because I wanted to understand how people turned out. Sorry, just out of my face. Wanted to understand how people turned out the way they did. I grew up with both parents always present. Like they worked. My dad worked nights in his job when we were young, so we could never have a babysitter. So one of the parents was like always there, right? I grew up in we call it the highway. So shout out to
Mhm.
Nova, Virginia, the highway. Everyone, if anybody ever sees this, but it was one of those places like you had to have thick skin because you're gonna get talked about, you're gonna get made fun of, you might run into some trouble. But if you have a good surrounding, like I was one of the funny people growing up, so I got out of a lot of things because my mouth made people laugh instead of made people want to fight. So
Right.
that's where I was as well. My mom grew us up in the church, so all my life, it was God first. So that was instilled in me at a young age. And just seeing that, then as soon as I got to like I want to say about high school, I started understanding the dynamics of family impact because I
Yeah.
started hearing about divorce for the first time, friends with families getting divorced, single parents, and all that kind of stuff. And by the time I got to college, I really started to see an impact. What really, I guess, got me on that track was uh, my female circle, like the friends I was making with that were females. I was seeing how they
Yeah.
was acting and how they was moving, and then it came this like joke about like being followers. And to this day, I'm like, a lot of them doing great, but I've noticed like a lot of females were doing better because the father was home, or a lot of my buddies they were doing good because they had both parents or they had a good relationship with their fathers, and so that's why I hold my father in such high regard. Because like to this day, even though I got my own kids, I'm still like following after him. So, but seeing the world change, going from a boy and realizing like I thought I knew what I was, I thought I knew how to do things like in my younger years, going into high school and college, but then becoming an adult and realized like, hey, I had no idea what I was doing back then. Thank God I had parents that were like present. And I thank God even more because I see the impact of so many people who did not have parents that were present. So in school, for example, I studied communication psychology. That's what my degree was in because I really wanted to understand people. I really wanted to understand how to connect with people. And then, fast forward to now, being a youth minister at my church currently, and being a mindset coach, and also do sales and every facet of it. But all those around connecting with people and building people, getting people, seeing where people are, what they need, and trying to navigate them to where they need to go. Because I see so many broken people. I see so many people are not as fortunate as me, and a lot of people have it rough. I'm not gonna lie and say here like I got started from the bottom. Now I'm here. I was blessed to have the resources and connections that I did, but the heart to give it back, right? Because I may not have understood what it's like to be, in a house that was raised with a single mother or a single parent or no father at all. But I've studied those people and I've connected with people like that and I've heard their stories and I'm using that to help others. So my biggest thing is like, even though people might not have started how I started, as far as like having that covering and having that direction, I feel like it's my duty almost because I've had that resource to give out as much as I can to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate a lot. Similarly, my parents have been married, goodness, almost 52 years, 52, 53 years. I remember growing up similarly in a church environment. It's almost like in a lot of ways, you look at your counterparts or the people that are similar to you who have had a different sort of upbringing, and for me, I know I question, so what is it about me that makes me still have a responsibility to
Mhm.
serve and to give back and to speak in a mental health space and to advocate for people, because I really and truly, in a lot of ways, I can relate to what it's like, similar to you having a single family or coming
Mhm.
from a place of being sort of disenfranchised and not having, of course, I didn't grow up with having a lot. We weren't wealthy,
Yeah.
but I did have
Right.
two working class parents who were middle class. So similar to you, I used to question, what is it about me that still motivates me to still want to stand in the gap and be an advocate and
Right.
support people, who haven't had a similar experience to me, almost to the degree where, so in a lot of ways, you may feel that you may not even be able to relate.
Mhm.
I know a lot of work that Chris and I did in the streets when we did a lot of work with gangs. A lot of ways, that's like, will they relate to what I'm saying? Because street level guys, they can tell if you're real or fake from a mile away. And I think authenticity is really what holds true to the character of individuals. So like you, no matter
Yeah.
what, being authentic and being able to share your story and being able to just show people that you genuinely have a genuine care for how they develop. There's a lot of times what keeps the grounding, what keeps people, resonating with the stuff that we're doing on. So I do appreciate with the place that you're coming from.
Yeah,
Um,
I just want to chime in as I pivot because I really want us to get to expertise of yours, Maurice, because I can relate to being poor, marginalized,
Mhm.
disenfranchised. You know what I mean? Bartering food stamps. You know what I mean? Like all of that. Section 8 energy of my childhood. But one of the things culturally, one of the things just in general with a lot of men is financial literacy. And one
yeah,
of the reasons we really want to have you on the pod, separate of you being a great man of God and a father and an entrepreneur, we really wanted you to really speak to the importance and also probably some practical tips that you can
Mhm.
give from a financial literacy space, man. Just kind of for our audience in general, from the male perspective, but also in the
Yeah.
culture, what is some fundamental things everybody needs to be aware of financially?
Yeah. So, um, I'll start with why I wanted to change. Like, because I started in the mindset space, and after talking to a man over years, I was like, yeah, I can minister to guys, and yeah, I can say all these nuances about how to get your mind right. But for years, I was like, there's no real like end goal. Like, I sound good, I'm giving them good tips and stuff, but there's no end goal. So I try to figure out, what can I solve? Because
mm,
if you can solve a problem, then you have like a good. I was helping people without no problem to solve, and then I understood like one of the biggest things that we deal with as men is the lack of financial literacy. So I used to some of my background in that space was just being in the business industry for over a decade. I used to work for Wells Fargo. I was a business banker, so my banking experience is about just under 8 years, and in that I kind of coped that with like working on like the financial team for a couple of years back in my church when I was in Virginia. But now I've kind of looked using all my life experiences just to kind of go over the basics. And so one of the main things I like to teach is like budgeting with financial literacy or come up with a plan. What sparked that for me was I had a friend that had a concert that brought me in to speak at their concert, but then I'm listening to their segment and they were talking about budgeting. And then they were like, you know what? Like Maurice, you have a product here, but you don't know how to budget. Like I could tell how you move. This is about like 10 years ago. It's like I could tell how you move. You need to work on your budgeting. She's like, don't think just because you got it all up here is gonna work. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a little challenge
Mm.
and I'm gonna write this down. When I tell you writing something down made the difference in my life, like I didn't get a pay increase. I was just looking at the numbers there. When I started doing that, I started seeing the shift that I had, like where I was wasting money at. I can just, oh, I'm too lazy to make a lunch for work today. Let me go buy lunch while I'm out. Like where I was wasting money. I have a family too, so it's like, and like for a time, I was on food stamps and doing check to check for some time, and then it wasn't until I got into like the practicing what I was preaching thing that my life started to change. Um, fairly recently, one thing that I stood beside is that I think one of the most important things in I'm not a life insurance professional, but I like to point people to people that I'm connected with that space because I think life insurance in our community is vitally important, especially the African American community. I lost my wife about a year ago. Well, a year ago, March 6th. And
Man, my
I
condolences,
wish,
brother.
thank you. I wish I had more things in place. God blessed though. God made sure like there was no financial struggle for me to carry our family forward. But in that, I made sure my policies, got stuff on the kids because you never know what's going to happen in life.
Yeah.
And so, like, I made sure that I put myself in a situation that while I'm building for my family now, if the worst case scenario happened to me tomorrow, they will be good. So, like, the basics I teach is, establishing a plan for your family now so they could be ready at any moment. But then starting with the basics, like budgeting and saving, and then everything can kind of pour in from there.
What do you say to the young man or the person that's watching this? Is, I don't really have any extra money, man. Things are tight right now, but I do want to prepare. I want to do kind of want to start to build a nest egg. I do want to be proactive so that if something happens, I'm prepared. How what advice would you give to someone who feels like every dollar that they have is accounted for, but they still have a desire or a need to be more financial literate and be prepared for the future or anything that will happen?
Um, I would say uh, practice acts of giving. I'm a firm believer that the giving elevates your finances. So if you have nothing, and you might not even want to give to a church, but like if you got extra $2 or $5, just bless somebody like on a whim. If you don't got enough to you're $80 short on your phone bill this week, and go ahead and get that $2 to some random person you just saw on the street and say God bless you or something like that. Because once we develop a practice of not making our resources, our money, our ruler, then we can win at the money game, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we think like I can't move without my money, that's what we're already falling victim to. But if you're like, okay, I might be struggling, but I got to figure out how to not make this my prison, right? Like for example, when money was low and things was tight, my kids will never know that we was broke, right? Right?
Yeah,
The way I spoke, and that's another important thing. I didn't speak. I was like, "Can we do this?" I was like, "No, let's do this instead, or let's do this next time." And I'll make sure I made a way for this to do like pizza night or whatever next time. And when I living in Florida, for example, I went downtown Disney, walking around, they seeing all the lights, they seeing all the little toys and all that kind of stuff. I ain't paid for one thing, but they in the free section, enjoying
Mm.
themselves, having a good time, and they're getting an experience, not knowing like daddy had enough money to get, down here with gas. So there's
Mm.
always like it's always what you make of it, but I didn't want to be a victim to my finances. And
yeah,
as you start being consistent and not being a victim to your finances, then it'll be there. I guarantee you, no matter how broke you think you are, it's there. You have something there.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
good, man. So tell us, what would you say to a parent who has children? What should they be having, or do be in place financially for their children?
I would say learn about life insurance. Not just don't just get it, but learn about the different kinds. Get somebody that you trust because there's a lot of different policies out there that are to our benefits, and some, to be honest, if you don't know exactly what's tied to them, you can just be throwing money out each month and put yourself in another bind because you're in like you're just throwing money away, right? I would say talk to somebody that's a professional in that space and then come up with a plan for your kids' future. So if they're really young, I would say start young. It can even be a savings, if not life insurance. Do a small savings plan where you're doing $5 a day. You might think that $5 won't get you anywhere, but it will teach you discipline, and you'll get used to not spending $5 every paycheck, and then eventually it'll come 10, 20, and so on and so forth. But if you start small and be disciplined with the small, you can definitely see an impact over time.
I love it. I love it.
Yo, that incremental process. Because if you really crunch the numbers, if you're able to save, let's say $5 a day,
Mm.
and it doesn't sound like a lot of money. I
Right.
see, in you have sometimes you have those challenges that surface that $5 a day over a period of time, then actually, incrementally can take you a lot farther than you would think. But I think really and truly, what the challenge for a lot of people is the discipline
Yeah.
of money. The discipline of anything really and truly is a struggle for a lot of people. And I think, especially when it comes to needs having to be met financially in your house, having to provide for your kids and having to provide for yourself, sometimes the discipline of the no
Yeah.
for your kids sometimes can engender feelings of guilt, feelings of I'm not able to give what they want versus what they need.
Hmm.
Um, what I know as a parent, there's always that struggle of
Yeah.
telling kids, Christmas may not be what you think it should be. How do we eliminate this mindset of, because in our communities especially, when you come from spaces where you're not used to having the emotional attachment we have to money can sometimes skew how we view it and even
Hmm.
how we use it to parent and how we use it, how we allocate it. You know what I mean? How
Yeah.
do we shift our mindset from reactionary to finances to being proactive, similar to what you're talking about?
I love that word. I always say be proactive, then not reaction. That's the other thing that's important about learning and knowing for yourself. Like
Mm.
honestly and truly, if you don't um, like have the resources, YouTube University, like start learning like how to
Yeah,
save. Start learning where the good bank accounts are at. Start learning like budgeting strategies. I feel like everyone has a good like business strategy. How can I start a business? I used to like when I was first coaching like years ago. I used to be an author consultant. I was
mhm,
teaching people. They was paying me to teach them how to publish their own books. I ended up publishing for them, but I was showing them like you can write a book. Use your phone to write it out. I was helping them edit the books. I would do a cover for them. They'll go to KDP, publish it, and then I'm like, just tell everybody and that hey, I got a new book coming out. That it was free. You can create a free account, and I was teaching people how to like, you want to start a business, you want to do this. There's so many resources because I knew what it was like to be broke, and I learned, how to start businesses with no money, and then
Mm.
I'll give that to other people. And so I was leveraging that. So I think one, it's learning,
Mm.
but two, finding a community that you can trust,
yeah,
right? Like for starters, when I first got married, um, I thought I had things in place, and then I was going to get like a new apartment. I got married. I was going to move into it. Somehow it fell through. It was like all this craziness that happened. So I had to say, "Hey, pops, mom, can me and my new family live with you guys?" Like that's
yeah,
some humbleness. So, like I'm a young man, just got married. I'm supposed to be doing my thing. I had to say, "Hey, can we live with you guys till this thing work out?" I had to live with my parents for a couple months, and then we got an apartment, moved, and started doing our thing. But it wasn't like all flowers and dandy and stuff. Kids were coming, one kid after the other, and still living like paycheck to paycheck. And it was at one moment where I had to understand that like I have to do something differently if I'm gonna get different results.
yeah,
But also trust my community, friends, family, mostly family. Really, we have a beautiful support system. I know a lot of people don't do that, but if you're serious, get somebody around you that's gonna be serious about you. Like they can say, "Hey, I see you. I see you're working towards this. Let me help you out here." And don't be ashamed to say, "Okay, thank you for that 20. Thank you for that 100. Thank you for that 5." Like, "Oh, I just heard this podcast and I ain't got no money. Can you, I want to open up a Robinhood account and see what investment look like. Can you throw me $10?" Like,
Mm.
don't be afraid to reach out to
mhm,
your community. Say, "Hey, this is my plan. This is what I want to change about my life. Can you
Mm.
help me get there?" And I think community and learning for yourself are like the two key things.
Man, I
yeah,
think you're doing a great job of kind of like not only talking about financial literacy, but talking about principles of it. You talked about being
Yeah.
creative. You talked about community, and I think you really just talked about character. Because as a grown adult, to humble yourself to be like, I'm just going to look at my budget and lifestyle and say what makes financial sense, and to have the play to say, man, my newlywed and my children, we're moving with mom and dad, and I'm going to make that call and ask. It's one thing for somebody to reach out to you, and say it. But I think what's even more important for you to say, be honest with your circumstances and be like, it makes the most sense for me to kind of move back, restart, recalibrate. As go
That
ahead.
Have a plan, man. Have a
no,
plan.
but
Don't let
that man, I'm like, I'll say this, especially my brothers, my young man, anyone that is watching, right? If you have a good relationship with your parents or someone, and you can afford like to maybe throw them something to like the side, or like if you can live with somebody for like a year. I love that quote by Jim Carrey. He said, "Give yourself a year." I guarantee you, I did it in my own life. Discipline myself for like a year and didn't break from it. If you give yourself a year, say, "Hey, I want to move in with you, mom and dad, or bro or cousin, so I can stack up and reach this goal." Shut down everything, stick to your plan, but give yourself like a solid year, like 1 year. Your life will change, right? If you can even start saving, like as if you had that. Say you have a decent job and you can put like 800 away a month. Like put a savings account. Say this is my mortgage, but you're living with somebody, so you stack your 800, 1,000, 1,500, whatever it is. In a year's time, you got couple couple stacks there, right? And you
that.
can really, put a down payment on a home. You can put a down payment on, you know, um, an apartment if you want to move into an apartment. But I'm an advocate. I'm a shameless plug right here for Homebuyer Academy. We go live every Tuesdays on Facebook and YouTube.
So talk
We
about
talk,
that, man.
yeah.
You heard us
So
talk back. Yeah, tell us
yeah, yeah.
about that.
So I started that with my brother-in-law because we were both like in the speaking era, and he has his own mortgage brokerage. And I was
Yeah.
telling him, and we were sitting there, and he was telling me about like how he does his speaking engagements, speaking about financial literacy. I was like, hey, I do that too. Like I'm in the bank. I do that for the bank, but I wanted to step out and do it on my own thing. Then we collaborated, used our resource, used our experience and expertise, and then he was like, hey, I got this course, this product I'm trying to build. And he was like, I heard you do stuff like that because I used to do books. I used to do courses, help people develop these, like put your ideas into a format, walk people through it, and then you get paid for it. So I'll show people how to do that. So we collaborated, and he made this blueprint, the book, and then he changed it to a course. I made the course, and now we got this group called Homebuyer Academy, where we just basically give the basics, the fundamentals of the home buying process. So we talk about budgeting, building your credit, finding a team, because we truly believe that everyone should be a homeowner. I'm an advocate, like you should own every space of your life. You should own your mind. You should own your spirit. We'll actually give your spirit to God, and you'll own everything else. But but you should own like real estate. You should own like a digital footprint. You should own a physical footprint. Like everything about your life, you should own. You should be in charge of. And so, and it's like little things. I can go like down a rabbit hole. Like I,
Nah, man,
for example,
that was a great elevator pitch. And on that
yeah.
note, man, we want to say, man, on behalf of Boy Man King, it's been an absolute pleasure, Maurice. Man, we want to thank you so much for even taking the time to give us these nuggets. But because it's
Mhm.
so much that you have to offer, man, let the people know where can they find more information about Maurice Jones, your brand, your business, and all the things you got going on.
So it's Maurice I Jones everywhere at all social media platforms, and you can visit my website at mauriceijones.com. And right now I'm going heavy with the especially with the economy and all the creations going on. I really want to
Mhm.
bring hope to people. So catch me every Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock on Facebook and YouTube with our Homebuyer Academy. We even have a free group where we're providing updates and resources every week. So you might not want to be a homeowner, but you want to be, learn about the savings that I'm talking about here, learn about budgeting, learn about building credit. Having good credit is a big thing. And or you might want to know what's going on in the marketplace. As far as like home, you want to join that group. It's called 2025 Home Buyers Club on Facebook. 2025 Home Buyers Club on Facebook. But we're going live every Tuesday. And it's free information.
Wow,
It's free game. It's
man,
free.
Man,
man,
you be dropping nuggets. I don't know. You gave us a little snapshot.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
We
yeah.
really go
just
deep on Tuesdays too, but yes.
Yeah, and that's more than enough for people to watch this episode to get some free game on how to get
free game.
ownership in real life. Man, shout out to Maurice Jones. Man,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, man. We appreciate you taking the time. And as we say on the Boy Man King podcast, man, the journey continues. Be blessed. We out.
Peace. Appreciate you, bro.
Maurice, thank you so much, bro.
Thank
We
you
really
guys.
appreciate you,
Thank you
fam.
guys.